take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. We don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that is America, and we're willing to die to protect it.
Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger,
you're all going to feel real uncomfortable just hearing me talk. You better get working out. Yeah, that's it. That is our Secretary of War Crimes. That's Pete Hegseth, everybody, the DUI hire, who was addressing a whole bunch of people who are way, way more qualified than he is to be leading the military. Hello and welcome to another episode of Stand Up. Very happy to have you joining me here on the program today. I have Bill B in D.C. joining me to talk about what is going on in D.C. with that potential government shutdown, as well as his reaction to Schittler's speech yesterday in front of all those generals, along with Hegseth and a lot more. Great conversation with Boyle last night. We were live on YouTube and Substack and everywhere else. Thanks for those of you who joined us. You can watch it, youtube.com/standupwithpete. Also, a little bonus convo. I was a guest on my friend Jojo from Jerz's podcast called Sane-ish, Joe Carducci, and I tagged our conversation onto that. And finally, I didn't have the audio for this. I think that was some issues with my audio, apparently. But I joined Wajid Ali yesterday on his Substack, The Left Hook. You can go watch that over there. He said he was going to post it tonight. That was a great conversation as well. We talked a lot about, and I do with Bill, to the comedians in Saudi Arabia. I'm definitely looking forward to getting your take. Mine might surprise you a little bit. I gave a little bit to Bill and a lot more to Waj yesterday as well. So we have a lot to talk about, and I want to get to it. I want to thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you at tomorrow night's hangout, as we do if you're a paid subscriber. If you're not, patreon.com/Pete Dominic. It is the first of the month, so check your credit cards. I always lose a few subscriptions right here at when the month changes because credit cards expire, and so I've got to be better about managing all of that. But please check to make sure you're paying subscriber, because we're just scraping by here. Lots of new subscribers. Very happy to have you and very happy to welcome you into the community. But nobody over here is going to be buying a Lamborghini anytime soon, or even what I really would like to get is one of them electric pickup trucks. That's what I want to do is get that next year. But I don't think that's really I'm going to have to get more subscribers to get that electric pickup, or I'll have to find something else. But either way, that is my pathetic plug. Please sign up, and please you can pay as much as you want. Pay as much as you want. Soon, hopefully we'll be able to monetize the YouTube channel, getting close. Go subscribe over there and at Substack. You can also sign up for a paid subscription at Substack as well. That's the best place to get discovered. I might move everything over there. So get on board over there at substack.com/standupwithpete. Okay, sorry about all the plugs. Lots to talk about in the headlines, and I've got a clip show for you coming up. Lots happening, obviously, yesterday, and I've got it all covered for you. Not all of it, but the most impactful and important stories, according to me. But if you do want to skip ahead to the conversations, my conversation with Bill starts at about 29 minutes. And my conversation with Jojo from Jerz on her podcast starts at about an hour and 20 minutes into today's show. But let's get to those headlines right now, starting with the fact that the federal government has shut down. That's right. Last night at 12:01 a.m., after the Senate failed to pass a continuing resolution to keep the government open through November 21st, Senate Republicans and Democrats continued to be at loggerheads on Tuesday night, with Democrats seeking a concession in exchange for 7 Democratic votes needed to overcome a 60-vote procedural threshold in the chamber, which Republicans control 53-47. However, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and his caucus sought an extension of COVID-era health care premiums subsidies under the Affordable Care Act, otherwise known as Obamacare. But Republicans refused to budge and have falsely claimed that Democrats are attempting to secure government-sponsored health care for unauthorized immigrants, which they aren't because that's illegal, and so it's a pure lie. And the health care premium subsidies will now expire on December 31st unless they are extended. This is the 21st government shutdown since 1976, and who knows what is going to happen next. But that is where we are at. We are in the barrel, folks. How will this shutdown lead to federal services, and how will it affect workers? Will it lead to mass layoffs and cuts? Lots of important questions, and we should have a lot more answers soon. But a whole bunch of speculation out there, lots of explainers from NPR to New York Times and more. Pick your favorite. Also, of course, yesterday, the, quote, Department of War chief, Pete Hegseth, whose last job was a Fox News TV host, and our dear leader addressed over 800 generals in what was a disgraceful and terrifying performance, particularly Pete Hegseth's performance. I mean, Hegseth's speech was one of the worst things my eyes have ever seen. All the things he said were so bad, caused extreme douche chills. The way he chose to pace and point to the camera was so unbelievably cringe, also rehearsed, yet so very, very bad. He is the secretary of douche. Of course, Trump went up there and also tried to make them laugh, and he could barely get a reaction from these 800 generals and admirals. It was a real embarrassment, and I'm sure you have opinions on it. We'll talk about it more at the Hangout. I've got some clips about it. But those are the two big stories from yesterday, the government shutdown and Hegseth and Trump show in front of 800 of the country's top brass at a military base in Virginia. Also yesterday, Trump announced that the drug maker Pfizer would lower some Medicaid prices. We'll see what happens with that. We learned more about the shooter in Michigan. The former Marine was accused of killing 4 people in this fiery attack on a Michigan Mormon church. Apparently, guess what? He held a deep grudge against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, according to 2 lifelong friends and other people who knew him. Shocking. I'm surprised. He himself apparently was some kind of a Christian and a Trump supporter, but we're not supposed to talk about that. What else can I tell you? Apparently, the Harvard University has reached a deal, at least according to Trump, for $500 million to settle a dispute. Yesterday, our stupid president said that his administration had reached this deal with Harvard and that they'd be paying about $500 million in operating trade schools. They're going to be teaching people how to do AI and lots of other things, he said. It was unclear whether Harvard was ready to announce a deal or exactly what terms beyond money the president was talking about. He noted any deal was not yet confirmed, and Harvard had no immediate comment on his remarks. So take that for whatever the hell it's worth, which is worth little. A photojournalist was hospitalized on Tuesday following an incident with ICE agents in New York City. You can see the video posted at New York Daily News, and a freelance journalist was forcefully removed from the elevator after being told to get off, and then you see the guy get knocked to the ground, seemingly by one of the ICE agents, and he was taken to a local hospital. That didn't look very good. And for some reason, I don't have a whole bunch more headlines for you today, but I do have a bunch of clips, so let's get to the audio that I've got for you. Let's start with some clips from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's interview on MSNBC last night with Chris Hayes, which I think is really important.
I think there's 2 things that are happening at once, and this is something that's very important for people to understand. One, there absolutely is an unprecedented abuse of power, destruction of norms, erosion of our government and our democracy in order to prop up an authoritarian style of governance. That is happening. However, they are weaker than they look. And it is important that we remember that, because what they rely on is the impression of power, the perception of inevitability, in us giving up in advance to say, oh, what's going to happen if I stand up, etc. Nothing's going to happen. They rely on that perception of inevitability and power so that people comply in advance and acquiesce in advance and give up in advance. And at the end of the day, Donald Trump is at record levels of unpopularity in his tenure. The Republican House is at record levels of unpopularity. They are underwater across the board, and they know it. And that is causing them to double down in public, but it is backfiring. That is why, whether it's a shutdown, whether it's all of this, they want us to blink first. And we have too much to save. Protecting people is too important a task for us to give up before anything even starts. So they may want to send people in, but these National Guardsmen do not want to be turned against their fellow Americans. We're seeing this here in Washington, D.C. It is an insult. Donald Trump is insulting the service members of this country by putting them on these silly tasks that they themselves do not want to be enforcing. And so we have to understand that standing up matters, that our voice matters, to not give in to this cynicism, because that is what they rely on in order to perpetuate this idea that they are that they have total immunity from consequence. They will experience the consequences of this, but we have to be the consequence, which is why we have to stand tall right now alongside everyday Americans who want us to be standing up right now as well.
All right, there you go, AOC. And that's not all. Chris Hayes had a pretty interesting question, or there's a very interesting theory that a lot of people are talking about that he proposed to her. Listen to this.
Let me ask you this. There are some people I have seen who have the following theory of why Senate Democrats have not cut a deal where they give 8 votes and move along. And that is that Chuck Schumer is worried about a primary challenge from you and is worried about the politics to his left flank. And so because of that worry about a primary challenge, he's going to shut down the government. Ergo, it is AOC's fault that the government's shutting down, or that you're somehow the kind of fulcrum of this. And I want to just ask you straight up, are you planning to primary challenge him? Do you think that's why he's doing this?
This is so not about me in this moment. This is about people being able to ensure their children. And I will say, because I saw some senators speculating about this, and I saw some Republican members of Congress saying, oh, well, if we have this shutdown, it's because of AOC. Well, if that's the case, my office is open, and you are free to walk in and negotiate with me directly. Because what I'm not going to do is tolerate 4 million uninsured Americans because Donald Trump decided one day that he wants to just make sure that kids are dying because they don't have access to insurance. That's what's not going to happen. And so if those senators think that we're having a shutdown because of me, they're free to enter my office and negotiate, because what we're not going to do is allow all of millions of people in this country to not be able to afford their insulin and their chemotherapy. So come strike a deal with me if that's what they really think is going on.
Ooh-wee, I like it a lot. I think that is going on. And one more clip from AOC on MSNBC. Or is it called, well, who gives a shit?
Donald Trump is down. Donald Trump is trying to play this bluffing game of, well, maybe what we're going to do is hold all the federal workforce hostage and fire everybody. Donald Trump has been firing everybody. We saw this with DOJ. We've seen this at the State Department. We've seen this at the Department of Justice. They are firing everybody. They are completely eliminating the federal workforce. And in order for us to stop this madness, we have to put a stop to it, and we have to stop enabling their abuse of power, including their use of rescissions. And when we're fighting on their health care, it forces them to act in ways in accordance with the law in other ways, too.
All right, there you go, AOC. And now let's listen to Bernie Sanders and his explanation for the government shutdown in a video that he made while wandering the halls of the Senate, is my assumption.
Shutdown is all about is whether Republicans are going to be able to get away with raising health insurance premiums by 75%. Yes, 75% on average for 20 million Americans. And in addition to that, throwing 15 million people off the health care they have by making devastating cuts to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. And you know what that means? That means, not according to Bernie Sanders, but according to people who have studied the issue, academics, tens of thousands of Americans are going to die unnecessarily. Well, you know what? I am not going to support that. And that is why the Republicans have got to sit down, they've got to negotiate, and they've got to protect the health care needs of the American people.
All right. And the argument that you're hearing from the right, Republicans, is that Democrats want to keep the government open so they can give insurance subsidies to undocumented people, which is just so stupid for so many reasons. And it's not true. Yet a lot of reporters are actually asking Democrats that question. Well, the Senate Minority Leader, who's got very few friends, or maybe he does, I don't know. Anyway, Hakeem Jeffries was on CNBC yesterday with that dumb Joe Kernan, who took the bait. Here it is.
You do want to provide health care to illegal immigrants that are here right now.
That's a Republican talking point, and it's shameful that you would continue. Of course not. I just said repeatedly that it is not. And we made that clear in the Oval Office to President Trump and to Republican leaders. We've made that clear repeatedly. It's a Republican talking point. In fact, I'm being gentle. It's a lie. We are fighting for the health care of the American people. And what we need to do is to address the Republican health care crisis.
All right. There you go. A couple of reactions to the government shutdown. And now let's get some reactions to that ridiculous display that we saw by our Secretary of Douche and dear leader in front of all of those military leaders yesterday. First, veteran himself and now senator from Arizona, it's Ruben Gallego on CNN.
Well, look, the president's an idiot. He doesn't actually understand how the military works. The first thing it's going to be is that most U.S. citizens will stand against that in civil protests. And you'll have, many of us joining them in that if they try to do such a thing. Number two, the oath that, our members of the military take, they will not be firing upon their own men and women, their own neighbors. Only, again, an idiot like Donald Trump would believe that such a thing. And thirdly, we'll do everything within our constitutional power to make sure we hold anybody accountable should they ever do something of that nature. And whether it's now or when this president is gone, anybody that engages in that type of action against our civilian military will be held accountable one way or the other. I think most and all of them, people I've ever served with, understand their oath to the Constitution. It's not to this president. And when that moment comes, they're going to live to that Constitution.
Well, I hope that he's right. I hope that he's right about that. They won't be firing upon their neighbors and fellow citizens. Let's go to comedian Trey Crowder, who had an amazing, almost 3-minute car rant. I always love to play these. This is real good in reaction to the Sane circus event yesterday.
Hey, y'all. Apparently, Pete Hegseth had a big idea recently. Guess he was in his office one day, fueling a manic episode with shots of Fireball, ranting at his assistant like, all right, you got everything squared away for the official Pentagon beer pong tournament next week? All right, hell yeah. Okay, next order of business, I need you to draft a memo to military leadership. Tell them they all got to come here on the 30th for a meeting. Yes, sir. And what should I say is the purpose of this unprecedented and obviously vitally important meeting? So I could talk mad shit and get everybody fucking hyped, bro. That's what. Don't tell them that, though. I want it to be a surprise. Yeah, I'm going to go Def Jam on these bitches. That's what. Don't say I said that. Sounded super black. I don't know why I said it. It's going to be sweet as fuck. Put that in the memo. Say attendance is mandatory, but it will be sweet as fuck, though. Signed, Hegs Dog. Right? He was clearly very into it. He had the American flag behind him, and it seemed like old General patting himself on the back. Must have hit a gas mask bong filled with his own farts before he got up there because he was feeling himself, boy. He's like, all right, first things first, kick ass and rip shit. That's what we do. And starting today, we're going old school, okay? I don't want to hear any more of that woke ass, the Geneva Convention, civilian casualties. Bullshit, all right? Rules of engagement, more like rules of engage shit. War crimes, give me more crimes. That's what I say. America, motherfucker, lighting shit up since 1776, bitch. Also, no more fatties. That's right. Starting today, we're all going to be ripped as hell. We're all going to train MMA, and we're going to paint flames in all the fucking tanks. It's going to be sick, all right? We're going to have tight-ass haircuts. Everybody's got a clean clean-shaven jawline, and no, that's not because I can't grow a good beard. I do not want it reported that last thing is because I can't grow a good beard. Also, women in the military. I know, right? But unfortunately, there's more to war than just rocking hard and blowing shit up, okay? So we can let the ladies handle some of that. But gals, here's the deal. Gonna need you to zip it up a bit. Okay, apparently you've been reporting more and more sexual assaults every year, and straight up, you're harshing the fucking vibes, all right? It's not cool. Okay, maybe try smiling a little more. See how much further that gets you. All right, that's about it for me. Just a couple more quick things. We're going to start giving out medals for hazing. We're going to do that old-timey thing where you play live music when the battle starts, but instead of dumb trumpets, we're going to shred guitar. And, we're going to rename all the forts after slave owners again. All right, Hegg's dog, out. Right, then to cap off the cartoonish lunacy of it all, once he got done fat-shaming military leadership, he brought on stage the dumpiest commander-in-chief since Taft was getting wedged into bathtubs. The whole thing was a completely unnecessary clown show embarrassment, or as Team Trump calls it, our wheelhouse. Right, but luckily you could tell that all the generals there weren't very happy about it either, presumably because they've dedicated their lives to serving with distinction in a role they take very seriously, and then today they had to sit quietly while the most unserious administration in the history of the Western world called them all fat gay losers as part of an impotent attempt to project a weak idiot's idea of strength. Ain't that America? Love y'all.
Well done, masterpiece. Another masterpiece by Trey Crowder. Love it. All right, here's Congressman Joe Neguse going off. I love this guy. Very smart.
I would challenge anyone to make sense of the rantings and the ravings that you just heard from the President of the United States on the front lawn of the White House. These are not serious people tweeting out, offensive videos last night on Truth Social, nonsensical statements that he's making from the front lawn of the White House, literally as he and Republicans bring the government towards the brink of a government shutdown. It is absurd and laughable and unfortunately has profound and tragic consequences for the country. And I just think that it's important for all of us to kind of acknowledge what we see with our own eyes. This is absurd activity from the President of the United States, and House Democrats certainly aren't going to tolerate it.
Hakeem Jeffries is pretty pissed about the now two horrifically racist videos that the President of the United States had put out making fun of, just attacking Hakeem Jeffries. And here's what he had to say in front of a bunch of his colleagues about that yesterday.
The next time you have something to say about me, don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face. Say it to my face.
All right. There you go, Hakeem Jeffries. And now I want to play for you a clip from one of my favorite people in podcasts, Dan Harris, 10% Happier. In this clip, Dan talks about all the anxiety of the news and everything and how it makes you feel. I've said this so many times, a little bit differently, maybe not as well, but I just love the way that he puts it. It's exactly how I feel and what I've been trying to articulate myself. So take a breath and listen to some great advice from journalist, former ABC journalist, and now author and podcaster and guru, Dan Harris.
How to keep a positive mindset in today's daily barrage of negativity. I was just thinking about this. Don't get too dragooned or suckered by the people and companies who make a lot of money keeping you anxious and angry. The algorithms that control so many aspects of our lives are really designed to freak us out, to make us angry, to make us scared, because that's what keeps us engaged. So they're just weaponizing against us our evolutionarily wired negativity bias, or to put it in Buddhist terms, our deeply wired tendency toward greed and hatred and confusion. They're just using that against us for their own profit. But the big problems are not the only things that are happening. It's not the full picture. And if you just believe all of the horror that's fed and served up to you on your algorithms, then you're missing all around you the fact that people are building buildings and teaching children and holding the door open for others and other tiny little acts of kindness and generosity. They're serving their country. They're serving their community. They're calling their mothers. All of that is also true. I'm not trying to gaslight you or convince you that everything's perfect. It is very easy to feel more anxious than you need to be because some very wealthy people are getting even more wealthy by monetizing your attention and hijacking the ancient fear-based parts of your brain.
Yeah. Real good. What'd you think of that? Hope you liked it. All right. Now some comedy. It's awesome. Kimmel is in Brooklyn. Jimmy Kimmel is in Brooklyn. And last night he had Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert on his show. And here he is at the beginning of his show from the theater in Brooklyn last night.
Thank you for joining us on night 2 of our week-long residency at the beautiful Brooklyn Academy of Music in Brooklyn, New York. My fellow late-night host Stephen Colbert is here with us tonight. That is right. It's the show the FCC doesn't want you to see. We're doing something fun tonight. We're doing something unprecedented tonight. Now, although I think it's unprecedented, I did not bother to check. Tonight, Stephen is a guest on our show. I will simultaneously be a guest on his show. We thought it might be a fun way to drive the president nuts.
All right, that's how it sounded last night in Brooklyn and on ABC. Kimmel not pulling any punches. And, of course, neither is Colbert. Here he is across town over on CBS's Late Show.
I'm sorry, we had the wrong tape. That's actually Hegseth slamming his nards with a skateboard when he hosted a weekend morning show this year. Still more dignified than what he did today, because in the actual speech, Hegseth went 5-star douche and at one point pegged the camera with what he was sure was going to be an applause line.
Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O.
Oh, no. I know that feeling. I've been there. I can commit. When you think it's going to land, that quiet crowd really hurts. I mean, it happens to a lot of people. It reminds me of when Queen played Wembley. Hegseth went all in on what he calls his warrior ethos.
Today is another Liberation Day. The liberation of America's warriors, in name, in deed, and in authorities. You kill people and break things for a living.
I'll say it. The Democrats have got to turn down the temperature on their violent rhetoric. Now, I know...
All right, there you go. Stephen Colbert last night on the TBS Late Show. Watch both of those shows and those interviews. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, well, that's all I've got for you in today's headlines and clip show. I hope that you liked it. I put a lot of work into it. I usually do most of it at night and then get up at 4 or 5 in the morning and wrap it up. At least that's been the routine. I don't know if I'll continue doing that or something different. I reserve the right to change the schedule. Got a lot of freedom now. Girls are older. I'm out here in these streets on my own, and I am really enjoying the work. So hopefully you appreciate the schedule and all that I'm putting into this first part of the show, because now it's time to get to the interview. Joining me today, one of our smartest friends out there in listener land. He used to listen and call the SiriusXM show. We liked him so much, I made him a regular guest here on the podcast, and I have heard from so many of you that always enjoy getting Bill B in DC's take. It's Bill Boyle, ladies and gentlemen. You should follow him on Blue Sky. That's the only thing we really like to plug. If you're in DC, you should buy him a pint of beer. And let's do it now with one of the best dads I know, one of the best guys I know. It's time for a conversation with Bill Boyle, which you can watch live. We did it on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube at youtube.com/standupwithpete. And after that, my conversation with JoJo from Jerz on her podcast. Let's do it right now with Boyle. There he is in Washington, D.C. It's Bill B in D.C. and lots that I wanted to talk with you about. Hi, it looks like you're so far from you're using your iPad or something. Looks like you're in class.
I am indeed using my iPad, yes.
but you sound great, and that's all that matters. You look good, too. I like the 3/4 Bill.
Do you? So I feel like a bit of a dwarf here. It's like that.
Your arms look too big at that angle, too.
Right?
I don't know.
I've been working out a lot. So,
There's something going on. The camera.
It's very Popeye.
The camera's making you look like Popeye. This is.
Yeah, I have to pull my head forward a little bit so that my head does not look tiny.
Don't worry about it. There's nothing you can do, Bill. You can't save it. I can't save me either. Look at me. I look like a naked mole rat, although I do like this shirt. Good to see you. Let's see, Tuesday night, we're talking at 7 p.m. We are just hours away from government funding running out right there in D.C., and that means the government shuts down at 12:01 a.m. tonight, or tomorrow, I guess, as we're talking on Tuesday night. Anything that you see that would change this? There's no conversations happening, it would seem.
No, it's definitely going to close down. I mean, where it is right now, I don't think Trump even really, according to Schumer, Trump doesn't even understand the healthcare effects of the bill that Republicans want Democrats to sign or to agree to, which would add gigantic increases to many people in many red states because it leaves out the subsidies that Obamacare was given for a long time. So the Republicans are just not operating from a place of any sort of logical interaction with what Democrats want. I mean, a good example, and even Republicans were saying this today. There's a couple that I saw saying this openly today, that, they're like, look, we understand Democrats, even the ones that would make a deal with us, they need to know that Russ Vought will actually spend the money. And so, if you're Democrats, what you're being told is like, oh, just do this bill and trust us. And these are the least trustworthy people that you can imagine, even in terms of politics, they're untrustworthy. So, for Democrats, there's no benefit to signing on to something that isn't offering them anything. And it's really going to hurt a lot of people. And by the way, like a big part of this is, Trump is saying now, if this happens tonight, it's going to mean that we're going to fire a bunch of people and we're going to cut Social Security and Medicare. Well, I mean, that's like inviting Democrats to a party, right? Republicans do that. No one's going to blame Democrats. They're going to say, look, if Trump cuts Social Security using this as an excuse, it's on him. That's a guy who's like pointing a gun to his head and saying, I'm threatening you. So it's ridiculous. So, there's no realistic politics going on here. This is Trump and his people trying to jawbone themselves into dominating the Democrats yet again. And Democrats can't go along with it. The base is so wanting to fight. So wants to fight.
Is my understanding correct that Democrats are trying to use the leverage that they have here to claw back some of what we lost in benefits, specifically in healthcare, as a result of the legislation that Republicans passed and Trump signed, the big, beautiful bill, huge cuts to healthcare subsidies. And so Democrats don't have the numbers, but they do have leverage in terms of this government shutdown. We've seen this before. The party out of power can try to get something. And is that right? Am I understanding that?
You need 60 votes in the Senate. And so, there's only 53 Republicans, so they're going to have to. And, there's no longer a, Manchin, our friend in Arizona, whose name escapes me for the moment, is gone. Like, there's much fewer squishy Democrats than there used to be. And so if the Republicans can't convince 6 or 7 of them to come across to vote for a bill, then the bill doesn't pass.
Republicans could pass it using reconciliation. They've done it before. Why not just use a simple majority?
I don't think they can in this case. Reconciliation is pretty technical, but in this case, I don't think they have the option of doing it. And let me put it this way. If they could do it through reconciliation, they'd already be doing it.
It's the least important concern, but it is the one that everybody asks, who gets the blame? You already intimated that you think that Republicans will get the blame. Eric Levitz, writing at Vox, said Democrats are taking a big risk by moving forward with a government shutdown, hoping that Trump is bluffing. If he isn't bluffing, the shutdown could look far different from those in the past. The Trump administration has already threatened to fire federal workers outright rather than furlough them and to further gut the regulatory state. I think what he's saying there is Democrats have a lot to lose. This was the argument last time, too, when Chuck Schumer wanted to vote to keep it open, because the damage that they are going to do, that this guy Russ Vought, OMB, is going to do in terms of firing people and gutting programs, is hard to imagine what kind of damage they could do.
Well, I mean, again, stop threatening me with a good time, right? I mean, basically, Levitt, he's a good guy, he's a good writer, whatever. But what's going to happen if you knuckle under? Are they going to go, oh, cool, we're going to give the Democrats some of what they want? Of course not. They're going to be more encouraged to take more extreme actions. And, you know, the numbers right now, I think it's in the 30s, like the mid to 30s of people who are blaming, 38%, I believe, of the poll I saw, people blaming Republicans right now. It's like 20-something, 25, 28% blaming Democrats, and the rest don't blame both, actually. Now, here's the thing. The people blaming Democrats, they're basically core MAGA Republicans. Everyone else is either blaming Republicans or blaming both. And in the end, Republicans control all three chunks of the government. They're offering the Democrats nothing. And what they're going to do, cutting Social Security, cutting federal workers, firing people permanently, all this stuff hurts Americans. So, Democrats are basically saying, hey, look, you don't have to do all that stuff. You don't have to do any of that stuff. We could have Who's Advanced said, Democrats are holding us hostage over policy differences. Oh, gee, I'm sorry. I thought that's what politics, that's what it is.
Right.
Democrats aren't doing this because there's some orange encrusted weirdo who likes fights with people, like the president. They actually have real policy things that are going to matter for real regular people in the country. So, yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, Democrats have to understand, if you take 6 fights in a row and you win 5 of them, you did pretty well. And they have to show some guts, some balls. They have to be ready to fight over things that matter. This obviously, clearly, totally matters. Does Congress show any balls versus the president? Do the Democrats defend people's health care? Do they defend the idea that an opposition party has influence, right? I mean, that's all the marbles right there. And if they continue to roll over, there's not going to be a Democratic Party. There's going to be something else. Because people are looking for that. People want to fight. They want somebody to limit Trump. I mean, Trump's got a 40%, 38, 37% approval rating, depending on who you talk to. He's really fucking unpopular. Literally the only domestic policy that he has that is close to 50% is a crime. Everything else, he's underwater above 8%. And that's including on immigration.
Which policy that he has that's popular, which is a crime?
Like Trump's approach to crime, when you poll people,
got it.
He's underwater by a point or two.
Right.
Everything else, he's under close to 10 points or down as much as 30 or 40 points. Trump's fucking unpopular. Don't let this guy hold power over you because he's threatening everybody. And that's the way the Democrats should place this or state it. Trump isn't threatening Democrats. He's threatening regular Americans. And that's the reality. I saw a great thing of, if you cut the subsidies for people in West Virginia, a married couple in West Virginia that is currently paying about $1,100 or $1,200 a month. This is people making $80,000 or $90,000 a year, paying $1,100 or $1,200 a month for healthcare, could go up as much as $3,000 a month. These are real gigantic hits. And I will tell you, if Democrats don't fight this, they will hold some of the blame for those huge premium increases that people are going to get later. If Democrats fight and lose, they still have a really good chance of having people remember those were the guys that tried to stop this from happening. And you either stand up or you get rolled over. That's it. Not that complicated.
How is it going to affect D.C.? They say this one could be a lot worse, and who knows how long the government shutdown could last.
D.C.'s already in a bad recession. There's not. Does it get worse? Sure, it gets worse. But he's already fucked the city up, and he's going to continue to. It's foot traffic in places like Georgetown is down 11, 12, 13%. Down in the mall as much as 17%. Imagine the shock. People don't think when you put troops on the streets in the city that it's any safer. Quite the opposite. The average tourist says, I'm not going there. There's troops on the street. Right? So Trump has already screwed up D.C. And again, as you know, I have a personal stake in this, business-wise, personally, et cetera. I live downtown. This is the city I live in. I'm saying to the Democrats, go for it. Shuts down the city for a month, fine, fuck it. If that's the price we have to pay to push back on this guy and put some limits on his insane exercise of power so far, then that's the price you pay. I mean, again, these things will cost us, but they cost us more if we don't fight.
Right. All right, let's switch to the other big issue that took place today. Was the big extravaganza where the Secretary of War, criminals, see what I did, and the president, who's also a criminal, addressed, I don't know how many hundred. Did you see that crowd of
800.
800 generals and admirals and like 4-star, 3-star, 4-star generals, all there, making for the most amazing target ever for a terrorist. Luckily, nothing happened, but what a real dumb idea to put all those people in a room. Also, just to call them off their watches all over the world. Also, that was probably not cheap, so it seems like a waste of money. And also, it was televised, so it was a publicity stunt. And finally, as a comedian, as a performer, I think the most important thing I can ever do is be prepared for an audience. Neither Pete Hegseth or Donald Trump were ready. And to be fair, the way they've conditioned themselves and been conditioned by MAGA, everywhere they go, people cheer them in these types of speeches. And when you lose that cadence of the audience reaction, it really throws you. And you could see both these guys were awful today. And it was cringe to watch because these generals and military leaders did what military leaders at that rank, certainly, and every other, are trained to do, which is not react, not be political, not show enthusiasm to the commander-in-chief in this case. It was a disaster, in my opinion. The optics were awful. And my final point is, without knowing much, I would imagine that these guys resent someone like Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, who said some of the cities in America are worse than Helmand Province. And some of these guys fought in Helmand Province. I was just at Arlington, where our friend Kate Wyatt's husband is buried. He died in Helmand Province, Marine Derek Wyatt. And, I just can't imagine these men looking at these two other men, one who avoided service and the other who faked it, who's really a DUI hire. What are your thoughts on anything I've said or anything else about this event, what transpired, why they did it?
So I think what it gets at in the big picture is that in the modern age with social media, the idea of public virtue has completely evaporated in the society at large. Bill Burr is going to Saudi Arabia. Anzia Sari is going to Saudi Arabia. Some clown from a unit who was never more than a captain from a unit that after he got busted for war crimes, that's Hegseth, is now Secretary of Defense. Marco Rubio sells out every scrap of his political belief. J.D. Vance, who called Trump Hitler at one point, sells out all of his political beliefs just to have a scrap of power and money and influence. Virtue is dead, at least on the Republican conservative side in American politics. But you know where it's not dead? It's not dead in the military. Virtue in the sense of military virtues, of being honest and of being accountable and of being effective, of doing the work, that's still incredibly present in the military. And guess who it's most present in? Other than master sergeants, it's in your field grade officers. These guys have been in the machine for 30 years, 25 years. They have imbued themselves with all of those attitudes and view of the world. That room, I forget her name now, excuse me, it's an NBC Pentagon correspondent. I saw her today. She said that she had been on the phone for 2 hours after the meeting, calling every general she knew, every admiral she knew.
Helene Cooper, I think.
Right, where she said she couldn't find a single one who was happy with what he saw today. So these guys got dragged out of often very important jobs, halfway around the world in many cases, to get like a you know what Hegseth was describing? He was describing a Russian view of the military. Like those stupid like videos the Russians were putting out before the war in Ukraine of all these guys running around and chewing on broken glass and headbutting each other and like showing off their muscles. That's the view of the military that Hegseth has, as does Trump. They don't realize that, a bunch of guys with fat dudes with beards and 17-year-olds who can't run a mile are killing 1,000 Russians a day with drones in Ukraine.
Right.
Like the real world is about getting all these capabilities mixed together. The guys who can run and shoot, and the kid who can work a joystick or fix a drone. That's what a real military.
And I'm guessing
world.
There's a lot of very qualified trans people who can fly drones or planes.
There were trans people who were in the special forces. I mean, there's not that's the thing in real world combat now. You have to have all kinds of capabilities. I knew people who were the most important people recruiting for the Marine Corps. And what they used to tell me was, our biggest problem is we can't get the nerds.
Right.
We're desperate for kids who can work with computers, but who can pass the physical. It's incredibly difficult for us to find those people. And we need them because the modern world is not a bunch of guys rucking over mountains in Helmand province. It's going to be handling AI and handling, all the things you need to run a modern war. And Trump and Hegseth have not the foggiest idea. I mean, Trump was talking about a World War II movie called Victory at Sea and lamenting that we didn't have more battleships and how he wanted more. I mean, that's just the most ridiculous thing in the world. I mean, it's just insane. Everybody in that room knows that. They are well trained and disciplined, so nobody said fuck off and walked out. But emotionally, mentally, I'd be shocked if 10% of that room was happy with what they saw. I would bet you it's not even that. Because if you're a real MAGA guy, you're looking at them and going, what the fuck are these guys talking about? I'm an actual war fighter. And they're just having this MAGA wank off on the stage. Somebody said something interesting. They said, that gets at the core of what is wrong with MAGA and Trumpism in general. They only know how to do spectacle. They don't know how to do policy.
Right. Well, spectacle matters a lot. I mean, they know how to perform. They know how to campaign. They know how to sell an idea, and usually that is done by scaring the shit out of people with nonsense. But they don't know how to govern, and they don't know how to effectuate policy, and they don't really seemingly care. I mean,
Well, they will when things go seriously wrong. I mean, because what's going to happen sooner or later is Trump's second term. He is waving the red flag at economic problems, at military problems, strategic problems. One of these days, something big is going to come along. And an economic problem in particular, where I don't think they have any idea what to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they're going to be in a world of trouble. And then the spectacle is not going to look very spectacular to the average American. The average American is going to be saying, fuck you, fix this one. And these are not the kind of guys who can fix things.
Well, some of them are really pretty good. I mean, RFK is fixing autism, which I think is impressive within just a few weeks.
It's amazing that Tylenol somehow got in a time machine and started making French kids in the 1850s.
It's
autistic.
Crazy.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Dr. Oz up there backing him up. They announced yesterday Trump advertised a fake thing.
Yeah, the med bed. That was pretty amazing.
It's crazy. It's crazy that he did that.
I will tell you, I look at the people that I grew up with who are on social media. The vast majority are fine. But there's a subset who just seem culturally, psychologically, personally predisposed to just getting sucked into every single weird thing you can possibly imagine.
What do you mean?
I was just talking with a friend last night about a friend of ours who was like a big left-wing guy in D.C. in the 70s, 80s, 90s, who is now a Charlie Kirk, Church of Charlie Kirk guy.
What?
And this was like an incredibly a Sandinista back in the day. But he was always a bit of a conspiracy monger, and the right wing now provides much more bang for your buck.
Right.
If you're the kind of person who gets endorphins from conspiracy. And so now this guy is just a whole intense Boyle, why did your people kill Charlie kind of guy?
Oh boy. Well, it's not just endorphins. I mean, you underplay the amount of money that.
Well, this guy's not making a penny from it. He's
true. Fair enough. Yeah, but
he's sitting in his small room in his sad apartment.
Brutal.
feeling important because he talks about this big conspiracy that he seems to know about.
It's so brutal.
So that's a lot of our world. I mean, that's a ton of our world. And if you go to Facebook and just, if you really want to ruin your afternoon, read the AI slop that's generated. As you know, I'm a huge history nerd, and somehow it knows that. And half the stuff that it sends me that's it's always something I've never heard of, like the Society for Alaskan Indian History or something. And it'll be something about Indian history. They're all remarkably wrong. Factually wrong. Remarkably wrong. And being a big history nerd, it's stuff about World War II where I'm reading it going this is absolutely factually wrong. That just means that all these people who are addicted to something like Facebook are just having horse shit AI'd into their ears every day.
What do you make about a lot of people, smart people that are kind of on Earth One, progressive people, not trusting, not believing what is coming out of Kash Patel's FBI and Pam Bondi's DOJ around these assassination of Charlie Kirk and the shooting the other day at the ICE facility? A lot of people are not buying, these.
Well, I think they've proven to be remarkably untrustworthy people, right?
Right.
So I would wait until you see the court case before I'd ever take any real, take anything at face value. I mean, if it comes from Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, almost certainly it's been altered to fit their political agenda. I mean, they've proven yet again and again that that's what they do. So I don't think there's anything conspiratorial about that. You're not confabulating other facts. You should just be saying, okay, I'm not gonna buy any of this until I get facts from at least a reasonably unbiased source.
But it's hard because, I've never thought that journalists should trust the government's official stories, certainly when it comes to public safety agencies and law enforcement agencies, military agencies, because we've seen the kind of lies they tell to protect themselves and so on. But it's very hard to get to the bottom of the truth on any of these things as a journalist, as a member of the media, because all you have is the official report from the government, and if the government's not to be trusted, what do you do?
No, but what happens is that all of these cases end up in a courtroom eventually. And when they do end up in a courtroom, you've got a defense attorney.
Great point. Yep.
Our judicial system at least works on that level where, both sides' stories will come out in a court case. But yeah, I think you shouldn't trust this government for what they say because they are transparently biased in everything they say. It's absurd how biased they are. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be, that's a good example of saying there's both siderism is dumb. There are not two sides in that case. Right. Democratic governments can sometimes do fucked up things. Previous Republican governments have sometimes been dishonest. But this particular Republican government is unbelievably dishonest, and that's just the reality of it.
What do you have pretty strong opinions and seem to really want to talk about. I don't know if it's just because it's me and I'm a comic, but you have some strong opinions on these comedians performing in Saudi Arabia. You want to cancel them all, apparently. What are your thoughts? Well, I mean, Pete Davidson's dad was a firefighter who died on 9/11. And
exactly.
He performed. So who are you to pass judgment?
Oh, I'm a fucking freeborn American citizen. I can say whatever the fuck I want. I can judge who I want. I'll vote that way too, by the way. I mean, what I said before about the death of virtue as a civic thing really is underlined by that. I mean, Bill Burr's brand has been for a long time saying, hey, stop being assholes and stop being corrupt shitbirds who pretend they're not doing terrible things. Yes, you liberals are a little too much and a little obnoxious and whatever, but Republicans are racist and a lot of people lie and whatever. Like Bill Burr's whole brand is like saying, hey, let's be honest about things and let's be like decent to one another. And yet he's going to accept a very large paycheck from like close to the 3-year anniversary of the dismemberment, the abduction and then the dismemberment of an American journalist. Khashoggi was had American citizenship. Right? So, like, you're taking money from people who murdered a journalist for writing about their various...
Everybody's taking money from bad people. Most people are...
These guys own slaves. Come on. Come on. Would you take, remember, you can remember, by the way, I've been consistent on this. The people who took money from RT, I savaged them too.
Well,
right?
you know, it's a little bit different, but yeah.
Your morals to such an insane degree. Right? Nothing's perfect. Nothing's pure as snow. Slavery, murdering journalists, the people who were behind 9/11 to some extent. I mean, what the fuck? That, if you accept that, then you can't give like anyone shit for having like taken money from the Germans to report positively in World War II. Why would you? And that's the problem, right? Virtue isn't you do everything perfectly. Virtue is you try to do things better. And in this case, these guys are all just going, fuck it, I'll take the money.
I talked to one of the comedians who just got back from performing there, and we had a long conversation yesterday off the record, and he basically told me, he's like, I've been to UAE, I've been to Dubai, and when we go and we perform at these places, we open their minds, we liberalize them, we integrate them into a more acceptable society.
That is absolutely bullshit.
Don't you think that's what
the journalists now than it was 10 years ago? Right? I mean, it is. Under MBS, Saudi Arabia is a much more savage place than it was. They're not changing anyone's mind. What they're doing is whitewashing dictatorships that do terrible things. And by the way, I don't know why you have to take money from UAE or Dubai or these other places that do really fucking terrible things. I don't get it. I don't. You know, if you said like, oh, I took money from Idi Amin, I mean, what the fuck, whatever. I mean, the people in Uganda really were enlightened by my comedy. Or better yet, like the people who played in South Africa under apartheid. Were they really making things better? No, they weren't. They were mainstreaming shitty regimes. That's what they were doing. And these guys are fucking kidding themselves while they pocket, a very big check. They're just kidding themselves that they're changing anything. That is such bullshit.
Do you think it's similar to a lot of these liberal comedians who are being critical of those who performed, and their politics, their gender, their sexual identity? I mean, pretty much everything's covered in terms of the comedians that perform in Saudi Arabia. But a lot of comics perform at kind of a very liberal place in Austin. They have this Moon Tower Festival, music and comedy. And this guy told me that seems a little bit weird that they're throwing stones at those who perform in Saudi Arabia when the Moon Tower Comedy is in Texas. Texas has banned abortion. It is jailing brown people, taking away gay rights. So Texas is like the Saudi Arabia of the U.S. Should they stop performing in Texas?
Totally bullshit. Total bullshit. Is that festival a direct outgrowth of the Republican Party that's doing all those things in Texas? It's like the city of Austin doing it, right?
Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
you're asking? Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. So that festival is not like the Texas GOP is running that festival. That's a festival that's like an Austin City festival. So the whoever is telling you this is really working hard to bullshit themselves. I mean, really working hard. And they, let me put it this way, whoever it is, tell them when they finally figure this all out, they could probably make a really good comedy routine out of it. About fucking bullshitting themselves to comparing, what is it, the Moon Festival in Austin, to going and talking in front of people in Saudi Arabia who are murdering journalists and have slaves. Like, give me a fucking break. That's ridiculous.
Bill Burr said it was a great experience, that part of the world, to be in that part of the world, to be part of the first comedy festival ever there. The Royals loved the show. Everyone was happy. The people that were doing the festival were thrilled. The comedians I've been talking to were saying, dude, you could feel the audience really wanted it. They wanted to see stand-up comedy. It was a mind-blowing experience. Definitely top 3 experiences I've had. I think it's going to lead to a lot of positive things, said Burr.
Bill Burr's also fucking kidding himself. By the way, did Bill Burr mention that he was not allowed to mention slavery in Saudi Arabia or anything else?
All of them. I think most of the comics acknowledged that there were restrictions, but there's always restrictions on. Not always. There's often restrictions on the gigs that we do as comedians.
Okay, imagine if Bill Burr went to the Texas Moon Festival or wherever the fuck it is, and they told him you can't criticize the government. Would Bill Burr do that show? I guess the answer is if there was enough money in it for him. Right? I mean, yeah, I think Bill Burr has utterly blown up his reputation, and he could talk about how awesome it felt. And I hope he felt awesome about that is he like drove past people on the street who were sweeping the highway who work for nothing.
David Cross wrote,
crushed him. I loved
I'm
it.
disgusted and deeply disappointed in this whole gross thing that people I admire with an unarguable talent would condone this totalitarian fiefdom for what? A fourth house, a boat, more sneakers?
Exactly.
We can never again take seriously anything these comedians complain about, unless it's complaining that we don't support enough torture and mass executions of journalists and LGBTQ peace activists here in the States, or that we don't terrorize enough Americans by flying planes into our building. I mean, that's it. You have a funny bit about how you don't like Yankee Candles or airport lounges. Okay, great. But you're cool with murder and or the public caning of women who were raped and having the audacity to be raped were guilty of engaging in adultery. Got any bits on that?
Precisely. Like, totally perfect. Exactly. I mean, these guys, Bill Burr's kidding himself. And I think Bill Burr actually did damage to himself. I think his career is now his career and his fan base. Well, maybe he just goes MAGA like everyone else.
He's not going MAGA, but I mean, I don't think anybody doesn't say. That's the thing. I think that you make a lot of good arguments. I think I generally agree with them. I think my reputation, my conscience is clear in terms of the things I've done and where I've taken money in my life and how I've made it. But I think that most people probably don't care. If they like this is their favorite comedian. I mean, he's going to turn the criticism in the material too. Hey, everybody's complaining that I went to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus Christ.
I'll tell you something. I was a fan until 3 or 4 days ago. Now, fuck him. I'll never watch him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think there's like 4 of you with that kind of.
No, but I would tell you that
purity.
I think that over time, right? Particularly if you're his kind of comedian who makes a point of talking about how people are full of shit. If you do something that is manifestly full of shit, you're attacking your own brand. And what he did is manifestly full of shit.
Yeah.
And he can tell it. You can go. I'm sure Bill Maher will hug him and say it's all great, and they'll smoke a cigar and look like a bunch of douchebags in that After Maher show, whatever the fuck it's called. But that doesn't mean that like discerning people who like really think won't think he's a complete piece of shit. And you know what? That's fine. It's just me. I'm who I am, but I don't think that. I personally think this is sort of how people become sort of MAGA comedians. Aziz Ansari was there, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. Which, like, coming from the Jon Stewart world originally, right? Isn't that really where he got his first? Not really.
No. Yeah. I guess I knew him when he started comedy. I used to hang out with him all the time. He was a stand-up in New York. But, yeah, I guess his first main big stage thing, I think, might have been The Daily Show.
Right. I mean, that guy also had a bit of a Me Too problem, right?
He did.
Right. And, that's sort of where these guys, like Aziz Ansari, before the Me Too thing, never would have done this show. Never would have done this.
Yeah, maybe. It is interesting to see. I mean, spend a lot of time on it. I don't mind. It is interesting to see who did it and who didn't do it. Like Pete Davidson, apparently, I'm reading the quote. He's like, "I've been getting a little bit of flack just because my dad died in 9/11." So they're like, "How could you possibly go there?" And then I get the check. I see the number and I go, "Oh, I'll go." Tim Dillon was going to get $375,000.
Well, and that's
and Shane Gillis said, a lot of people thought he was MAGA and helped Trump get elected. Well, he said, I took a principled stand. You don't 9/11 your friends. So does he gain respect in your world?
Wait, did he go or not go?
He didn't. He said
good
it
for
was
him.
Against it.
Yeah, good for him. I mean, I don't give a shit if someone's MAGA or not MAGA in that sense. If they said, I'm not going to do this shitty thing, good for them. That's fucking great. And that kind of gets at my point of virtue isn't political. It's not partisan. It's like, are you going to take money from these fucking awful people or not? And if you're the kind of person who takes money from them, it's like, whatever, my dad died in 9/11. Like Pete Davidson's a clown and a shitbird, and that's it. And fuck him. I mean, it's funny because I know the cliche is liberals are supposed to be like mamby-pamby about all this stuff. I'm not. I'm really fucking liberal. Fuck these guys. Assholes. Total assholes.
All right, finally, what do you make of everything that happened around Jimmy Kimmel's firing and return tonight? He's in Brooklyn. He's got Colbert and Seth Meyers on the show, which is going to be pretty cool. What do you think of all that?
So Disney lost 1.7 million subscribers, partially because they did that really brilliant thing of creating this firestorm right as they were raising their rates, right? So they lost 1.7 million subscribers globally. They panicked when they realized that people were like, fuck you, you're getting rid of this guy. And here's Trump's problem, right? In the Niemöller sort of, first they came for the communists and not even care thing.
Yeah.
The people in that home that were taken before Niemöller were real unpopular in Germany, right? Trump's problem is America doesn't have large groups that other Americans are, like the majority of other Americans are totally bent out of shape about, right? We have race problems, certainly. We have some anti-Semitism. There's some transphobia, that sort of thing. But we don't have communists and Jews and whatever that Germans were full of hatred and bitterness about to a large degree, right? So Trump is like almost immediately, first they came for the communists, then they came for Jimmy Kimmel. It doesn't work here like that. Jimmy Kimmel's popular. People like him. And if Trump is already on the list of going after people that are popular and well-liked, well, guess what happens? People vote with their pocketbooks. They vote in the booth. They get mad and they fight back. And in this case, look at how fragile this attack was on like late-night comedy. It was over. Trump lost abjectly within days. And they lost because these guys are terrified of regular people just saying, fuck it, I'm quitting the subscription. That's all. There was no fighting in the streets, nothing. And I think that like what these guys are trying to do is effectively jawbone themselves into a dictatorship. Again, they can't do policy. They're all spectacle. And so it's all pick these fights and have these big movements and whatever. But in the end, they have a glass jaw. 60% of the country doesn't fucking like them. When you look at the polling, people who really don't like them, like vehemently hate them, are like 48 to 50%. That's not, and then there's like another 10% that sort of dislike them. Like they have polarized the country against them. And I think that the Kimmel situation, which, you can get into all the ins and outs of it. Everyone's done that. So I'm not going to bother. But the bottom line is it shows they're weak.
Right.
And it shows that they're,
right.
And, on your not podcast, but on your meet the other night, that's what I was trying to get through to people that, it's the curling up a ball and dying. Like whenever something happens, people go, oh my God, that's chilling. Well, everyone before, and I said this to you specifically about the meeting that Hegseth did, and then Trump came to today. I said these moments that are chilling often end up being debacles. It's actually normally not oh shit, this is the next phase of dictatorship. Normally it's like, oh, awesome, this is the beginning of the next fucking meltdown and screw up these guys have. Today was a perfect example of that. Everyone's so scared. And when you look at these things they do and immediately go, oh my God, the Republic's over, you're giving them power.
It occurred to me, I should have asked you this earlier, I guess it doesn't matter, watching all those 4-star generals there who'd been in the military for 30 years, probably pushing 60. They're the top military leaders in America, in the world. And then watching Trump stand up there and ramble and just really...
One eyelid drooping.
I mean, it was real bizarre, folks. If you didn't see it, I watched it, a lot of it, on double speed, and it was boring.
Oh, it's just a weird old man.
And when you think about...
his makeup at you.
So take today and what he did today with all those guys, looking at that audience, and then go last week to the UN and look at that audience of world leaders. These were two events where the most influential people in the world were the audience. It wasn't a Trump rally.
Yeah.
And they stared at this man who was rambling. And all of them, I'm guessing every one of them, almost the vast majority of them at least, were like, this dude is crazy. He's a madman. He's gone mad. He is mad. He's a sociopath. He's an idiot. He's embarrassing. He said to these world leaders, all of your countries are going to hell, and I'm right about everything. He made other authoritarian leaders look normal, look calculated. All of them, by the way. Yeah. Who's the craziest dictator authoritarian we ever had? Like a really psychologically madman. I mean, pick one.
We've never had one like this.
Never had anybody. This guy, those people, all those other men picked their spots. They wrote their speech. By the way, here's something simple to observe. I don't know this for sure, but Hitler, Stalin, Mao, and any of the great orators, I bet you they mostly stuck to the speech. They didn't ramble off on tangents because that looks you look weak. And those are bad moments. I know this as a performer. Hit your spots, baby. And he was all over the place.
Yeah, Trump is in like this enclosed, weird little world now where he doesn't really know what's going on. And I think Stephen Miller is his gatekeeper. And for the most part, and Susan Wiles is sort of trying to keep things normal, and Miller is heading up all the craziness. I mean, when the governor of Oregon called Trump and said, we don't need troops in Portland.
Yeah.
Look at here, I'll send you videos and like whatever. Like this isn't happening here. There isn't.
He thinks there's riots. He's looking at like videos from like 3 years ago and shit. His people are whatever. He is.
Yeah, Trump literally said, like, I guess what I'm seeing on TV isn't happening. So he's like watching Fox and they're showing from Antifa from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And he thinks there's like downtown. And, you know, some of that is bullshit, right? Because the main purpose is not to solve anything in Portland. The main thing is that he just wants to exert power.
What do you want? We know what you want. What they really want, is for nonviolent, peaceful protesters to become violent. And then they can, I mean, that's what they want. That's what they're trying to get. It's amazing.
Except that, you know, it's not working super well. I mean, I'll tell you, in Oregon, they're freaking out.
I bet you it's gonna.
Well, we'll see. I mean, what's happening, though, remember that it's very clear to people. And if you poll, for instance, what they're doing in Washington, it's really unpopular in America. It's like 60% of people think it's wrong that there's federal troops here. So these guys made the mistake of fomenting or putting the troops in, then trying to foment the violence. And that was a strategic error beyond belief, because what they should have done is fomented the violence first and then said, well, we have to put troops in. Because now the average voter, I don't think, looks at this and goes, yeah, oh yeah, this is justified. They think it's fucking weird and crazy. And I think that again, you know, they don't have the chops. They don't have somebody, as you brought up, like people like Hitler and Stalin. Those guys were calculating as hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Hitler took over Germany legally, basically. And he did it because he was like, okay, well, here are the power blocks and how can I move this group and what can I do with that group? And it was a lot of incredible machinations that led to the Nazis taking power. Stalin spent years as general secretary, which was not, by the way, did you ever think about the fact that the head of Russia was the general secretary of the party, the guy who takes notes, right? That's because Stalin realized that was the guy in charge of personnel, in effect, in the Bolshevik party. And so what Stalin did was put all of his own people in all the offices over more than a decade. Like, these are incredibly calculating guys who used bureaucracy and used political maneuvering, ideology, everything else. Trump is just this big, fat, weird baby covered in orange pancake makeup who is just kind of banging his rattle off of stuff.
We're talking about how these things are not going as planned for the regime, and it's embarrassing them, making them look weak. There's one more that I can think of from this past week, and that, of course, is the indictment of James Comey. Thoughts?
God, I hate Comey. And I'll really resent Trump even more for the fact that he lets Comey look and be heroic. Comey, and by the way, like, think about this. This, again, gets at how fucking stupid they are. You're going to go after a guy on a ridiculous, trumped-up, stupid charge to the degree that Andrew McCarthy at the National Review and other very conservative lawyers are like, this case is fucking bullshit and should be thrown out tomorrow. But you're also going against, like, an incredibly good lawyer who's got tons of money to fight you, who is tight with everybody in the legal community, who ends up with Patrick Fitzgerald, who is like a fucking werewolf of defense law, who he probably gets for free. Like, he picks the strongest opponent.
Going against a prosecutor who's never prosecuted,
who's an insurance lawyer,
and like, a beauty.
She's gonna get, and she can't get other lawyers at DOJ to join the case,
right?
So, like, literally, like, they're just going to get murdered in court. I'll be shocked if it goes. I'll be shocked if it even
goes to trial, right? Yeah.
So, like, again, you know, it gets how fucking dumb these guys are.
Yeah.
Because Comey gets to go out there and he's going to make a big thing of it, and it's going to be in the news.
Don't you think so?
People are going to see it.
don't you think that they try to adapt and they try to do something else, but once they fail with Kimmel, in terms of kicking off the, comedians they don't like, once they fail with Comey, do they try again do they try to indict, Milley and Hillary and Obama once they fail miserably?
They'll go down some stupid.
Is the indictment itself, we've announced an indictment, is that appease the king? Is that appease MAGA enough that, because they lose. As you said, this will probably be thrown out. I'll never even make it to trial. He wants to go after the Attorney General of New York, Tish James. I mean,
he wants to go after Wray because Wray came out and said what
Chris Wray, the FBI director,
is total bullshit and it's wrong.
Same with Bill Barr. Bill Barr told him in Trump 1 there's no case against Comey.
Right. No, and again, I think it's to appease Trump's ego. But I also
do you think they keep going? Do you think they keep trying? And because they know they're going to fail again. Once you fail, once we beat them back, that's the thing about, we keep hearing this rhetoric about once you appease a bully, they keep coming for your lunch money. You got to fight back. You got to punch them in the nose. Well, that's what happened. That Kimmel did. That's what Kimmel did. That's what James Comey is going to do. I think they start to back down with the with the failure being so public.
They just keep groping for the next tool to swing. and it just, and again, that's the whole point. Like where the universities really fucked up and some of those law firms really fucked up was agreeing at all. They should have said, pound it up your ass, fuck you.
Wow.
And if they had done that, Trump would not have gotten any money from any of these universities, and we'd all be in a much better position.
So vivid.
There has been a failure of our elites. That is for sure. And I think a big part of it is that, a lot of these people were in cushy jobs.
Yeah.
Where they never really had to throw a sharp elbow outside of a committee room. And they're not really suited for purpose for having it out with an authoritarian government, which by the way, we already do have. And this is where, I think it might be weird to you that I'm much less concerned seeming than I was last term. But I feel like the thing I was worried about has already happened. We already have an authoritarian government. We just have a really ineffective one that is incredibly clumsy and that can be turned around. It can be beaten. But the part of I think everyone should stop going, oh shit, if this happens, then we're going to have an authoritarian government. We already do. It's already here. They're already blowing off the law. They're already doing all these idiotic things in foreign policy. They're, and yet, even though we do have, let's call it a soft authoritarian government, even though that already exists, it's not at all fucking effective. And it's really not popular. As the joke that I drinking with beers with friends last week, I said, Trump is no Juan Perón, right? Because Juan Perón was the dictator of Argentina, really the elected president, but effectively dictator of Argentina, who for a long time was incredibly popular. And Trump has never been that guy. He's not able to create a mass movement. He's the outgrowth of one. And it's not it is a very inchoate and disorganized one full of factions. And, I think the future there's grim times ahead, but the medium-term future, I think, is pretty rosy.
Wow, I like to hear it. Finally, before I let you go, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have announced that they would break up. Thoughts?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm really bummed out about it. Although now it finally gives me a chance with Keith Urban.
Keith Urban.
It's too obvious, huh?
I saw it right before. I knew you weren't going. I knew you weren't
Stepped
going
right
across the plate.
Line.
I saw it. Saw it right there at the vinyl. All right, a second. All right, buddy. It was great as always. Bill Boyle. Follow him right now on Blue Sky. That's really the only plug.
It is. And go Yankees.
Yeah, go Yanks. Excited.
All right.
Saw me take my dad to the game the other day.
I saw you. I did hear. I heard you talking about. That's awesome. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Chisel D.
I sent my bro. We were in the top tier because Chisel's cheap.
Yep.
And I sent the picture to my brother, who you know, and he writes, "Great seats. Pull some strings. Did you call it a favor? Twist an arm or two. Nice. Grease a palm. You cheap fuck."
Nice.
We were there though. We were there.
Yeah.
My dad goes my dad doesn't drink, but I got one of those giant beers. He goes, "I can't believe that beer is $16." I go, "Yeah, it's like 3 beers, Pop. Look."
Right.
It's like 3 beers high.
But it was Bud Light, I'm sure. So it was really like half a beer.
It was Bud Light.
Yeah.
Here's the picture.
It's 3 beers and 4 trips to the bathroom. Yeah. Nice. Jesus Christ, dude. Did you have like oxygen masks?
Yeah, we were up there pretty high.
Fuck me. My
All
God.
right, bud. Thank you very much. I appreciate you as always. Thanks for everybody for watching for live, and I will post this for tomorrow on the podcast, but you saw it here. Thanks, Bill.
Awesome. Cheers, pal. Be good.
Bye, everybody. All right, there he goes. Bill B in D.C. We love talking to Bill. Always love to hear his view on things, and I hope you liked it. Thank you, Bill, for joining us. If you want to thank Bill, you can do it in person because he's a very valued member of our community, often joins us at our hangouts. But you can also go over to Blue Sky and follow him there. He's posting always smart, clever, pithy takes. And if you're ever in D.C. and you want to buy him a pint, you should, because he'll hang out with you. He has lots of other folks in the community. And now it's time to get to bonus conversation. My friend Joanne Carducci, a.k.a. JoJo from Jerz, asked me to join her on her podcast, and I was more than happy to do it. And I hope that you will head over there and subscribe to it and everything that she is doing on Substack and everything else. She's everywhere and massive. She's a huge, giant influencer, very, very impactful. She's got all kinds of threats in her career. It's very smart, very funny. We've become good friends over the years, and I was real happy to join her on her podcast. I hope you'll go listen and subscribe. Here is what it sounded like.
Okay, time to get comfy, shake off the noise, and settle in. Let's see if Pete can help us stand up a little straighter in these upside-down times. Should we just jump into it then?
Go. Are we going?
Mike Johnson, ever so devout evangelical Mike Johnson, is basically going to shut down the government alongside all of his MAGA minions and Donald Trump's MAGA minions, basically because they don't want to release the Epstein files. That's kind of what it boils down to. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's this one is going to be different. I mean, I think that this is going to have a lot more of an effect on services and programs and employees that are going to be sidelined. Decisions that, are going to go way past past shutdowns. I think we've had so many shutdowns and people have gotten used to them. But I think it's important that this one is going to be potentially a lot worse in terms of, in the past, people were laid off, furloughed temporarily, but these shutdowns could they get into permanent mass layoffs and, huge reorganizations. And that is really bad, dangerous. And so, the Trump administration's the regime has already reduced the workforce by 200,000. It could grow to 300,000 according to one thing I read. And so, I just want to try to make a point that for people to understand that this is not going to be like the last shutdown. The question you asked is it, as a result of they don't want to release the Epstein files? Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy that they use the Epstein files to get elected, brought people to the promised land, and I'm like, no, you can't have them.
Yeah, there's nothing to see here. And they'll go so far as to cancel votes, send people home early for breaks, and shut down the government. Shutting the government down, by the way, is not something Donald Trump gives a shit about. He doesn't care about what you just said. He doesn't care about all those people who will be furloughed and potentially lose their jobs forever, their livelihoods. I mean, just look what they did with frickin' Doge, right? He doesn't care. He doesn't actually want to govern.
No, there's no doubt that he doesn't care, but I think that to a certain extent, the people in charge, certainly at OMB, want this because it allows them the latitude, which is the argument why Chuck Schumer did not want there to be a shutdown last time this opportunity came up, because it was a pretty good argument too that they didn't want the courts to be shut down. They didn't want Doge to run free. People can argue whether or not that was the best thing to do, but now it's the same thing in that OMB and they do want to shut the government down because they can get more done. They can fire more people. They can reorganize more. They can do things without people watching. So I think they do want this to happen, and they don't think that it's going to affect them. And I don't care. People, Republicans especially, don't care as much about perception of politics because arguably some of them think that they're going to be there forever. They are running elections.
They are rigging everything. They're not necessarily worried about popular, approval or populism or any of it. So even though it's definitely going to be them to blame, are they going to get blamed? And do they care? That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, it's interesting because there's like sort of a dichotomy here because they don't care because you have Joni Ernst, who, by the way, cared enough, I guess, that she's not seeking re-election. Fuck you, Joni. But she said out loud, like, doubled down on it. First, she said, it is what it is, basically, that people are going to die. When somebody asked about the cuts to Medicaid and how that's going to impact their lives. And then she went to a fucking graveyard and filmed a video of herself talking about the tooth fairy. And again, just fuck you to her constituents. Like, I don't care if you die. We're all going to die. That's what she said. But on the other hand, and they're not even going to like town halls. They don't care. But on the other hand, they seem to care enough that they think they need to cheat to steal these seats in states where they're rigging their maps that are already rigged, by the way, like Texas and Ohio and Florida and Missouri. So they seem to think there's enough of a worry that they have to cheat, but then they don't care what they say or do for their constituents, which they used to be beholden to a standard where at least they had to pretend like they cared.
Well, I think that you just explained it in that they don't have to care as much anymore because they've redistricted they've done everything they can to rig the House so that they can keep it. Mm-hmm. And so now they don't care as much because it's been rigged, and they're going to do whatever else. And even if they lose, they're going to say that they didn't. It's going to be the big lie en masse is one of the primary concerns I've heard from people like Mark Elias, that no matter what happens as a result of the midterm elections, they're not going to concede because unfortunately Republicans don't play by the rules anymore. I mean, to a certain extent, they did play by the rules to a large part in terms of accepting the outcome of elections from time to time. And obviously we can argue about 2000 Bush v. Gore, obviously. But for the most part, Republicans accepted the outcome of elections at local, state, and obviously the federal level. But the new Republican orthodoxy is that they don't accept the outcome of elections. They also don't want people to vote. They don't want it to be easy to vote. They've always been trying to work in that direction. But that's the simplest thing for people to understand about democracy is people on the right and dumb people often argue, we're not a democracy, we're a republic. Yeah. And they don't know what they're talking about when they say that. But if you just simply explain to them, well, what I mean is in America, we accept the outcome of the elections. We used to.